So yeah, cool. So hi everyone. So today we will just attempt to create a basically a AWS server for our website. So it's quite simple what we are attempting to do. So the scenario goes that you have a website, you have some sort of HTML that you want to serve. Um, so we just need that website to be served on a cloud-based server. So AWS right now is the most common server, is the most sort of common cloud-based server that's in use today. Um, and we will just do that today. So the process of today's course is going to be, so we create an AWS account and set up the server, set up the NGX, which is the routing tool that we'll be using. And then we'll be redirecting our domain to the IP address that's associated with the server itself. Cool. Does anyone have any questions about that? Does anyone have any questions about what AWS is? What is a server? What is the server in relation to a website or anything like that? If not, I will just proceed. So I'll start from the absolute basics. So this is AWS. AWS is a web cloud-based web service or web architecture tool created by Amazon. There are also corresponding tools created by Google and Microsoft, and a bunch of other companies as well. So we also have what we call Azure from Microsoft. We also have GCP, which is Google Cloud Platform. So this is Azure, and this is the Google Cloud Platform. Yeah, that's here. So those three are the big ones that we used in Australia and New Zealand. There are other smaller ones like Heroku, and a bunch of others as well that I just can't think of the name at this point. Yeah, so AWS, which is this one here, is probably the most popular. But Azure and Google Cloud are also quite heavily used as well. So today we will just use AWS, the Amazon Web Services, as the basis. So we just go ahead to AWS and then create an account. So I've actually already have an account. For those of you that doesn't have an account, you obviously need to create an account. Yeah. So after you've created an account, you will see something like this. So this is the dashboard for AWS. And on the top right corner, you will have something called a region selector. So a region selector basically means what region you're based at, and also the region of your server that you want to create and you want your server to be based at. So as we can see, there's quite a lot of regions. So there's obviously some US regions, some Asia regions, Europe, and so on. Obviously, because we're based in New Zealand, so Sydney will be the fastest for any servers that want to serve the Australia and New Zealand region. But obviously, if you don't care about speed, then some of the US servers will be a lot cheaper. So today we're just going to do a server on the US just for the sake of it. So So we went ahead and selected the US region, US East Ohio. After we select that, we just want to select this EC2. So what EC2 is, EC2 is basically a instance, or it's a image of a virtual machine. A virtual machine is basically a partition of a server, which is a computer. So kind of imagine that we have a computer and it's been partitioned into little sort of segments. And each segment have a certain allocation of CPU, of hard drive, of memory. So we just want to click that for now, EC2. And then we want to go to instance. An instance is basically a little partition of a computer. So we just want to click that. And over here we have launch instances. So we want to click that to launch instance. And over here we're just gonna name the instance. I'm just gonna name it test. And over here we will select the software that the instance will be using. So as we can see, there's Amazon Linux, which is Linux based, and Mac OS and Ubuntu. Ubuntu is also Linux based. So Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat, and a bunch of others. So we're just going to use Ubuntu today. And we will be using the free tier available. So the free tier is basically on AWS, it gives you a certain amount of time per month that will be free. So if you're learning AWS, it's a good tool that you can use, so it doesn't cost you any money. So we're just going to select Ubuntu, this free tier. I don't think, so my Mac OS and Windows, so Windows also have a free tier. So some of those machines doesn't actually offer free tiers, so you want to be careful of that. So make sure that what you select is free. So I'm going to select Ubuntu. I'm going to select the instance type. I'm just going to select this. There's only one that's free, so we're just going to select that. And then, so this here is actually a key pair. A key pair is essentially a SSH key that you use to log into your instance. So I'm also going to create a new key pair as well. So I'm just going to name that, name it test 01, or test 1 actually. It's going to go create key pair, and that's going to download it onto your computer. So you also want to save that. So I'm going to save this here. So that's saved so that I can use it later. And then we keep on going down. And we can see some firewall configurations here. So over here, because we're making the server so that it can serve websites. So in that case, we actually want to allow HTTPS traffic from the internet and also HTTP traffic from the internet. And this allow SSH traffic basically means if you allow SSH traffic, it will allow our key, the key that we downloaded to work. So SSH traffic basically enables you to connect to your instance remotely. And this anywhere basically means you are able to connect to your AWS instance from anywhere. Basically any IP address, or you can select my IP address. So that is my current IP address. But we're just going to do anywhere for now. So over here, we also have a configure storage. So you can select higher storage. So we can do, as much storage as we like, but for the sake of it being free, so we can only have up to 30 gigabytes. But we can, I think, just 10 gigabytes for now is sufficient. And we're going to go down. So those are, so I don't think we need those. And we will just launch that. So the instance has been launched. And we can see, go back here, which is at the dashboard of all our instances. So in the case that, you might have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 instances running, and they will list them all down here. But right now we just have one instance, so that's running. So the instance state is saying running, so it's running now. Yeah, so that's our instance. So basically that is our server. So the server is created and is now running. So we can see here some details about security, network, and storage. So this here is just the details of our server. So we have the instance ID, which is the ID that AWS uses to identify each instance. We also have a public IP address and a private IP address. So this public IP address is essentially the IP address of the server. So we can go to this, and this is basically the IP address of our server. It's not accessible at the moment because we don't have any web servers running it, but essentially that's the IP address. And we can go down, we can see some other settings. We can see that the instance type and a bunch of other things that we don't need at the moment. And then just gonna click on the security tab. Over here we have some firewall rules. So essentially here it says inbound rules. So inbound firewall rules means what are the rules defined for inbound traffic, which is traffic going into the server. So we can see the port. So we can see the 443 port. The 22 port is essentially the SSH port. So this allows us to connect to the server by SSH methods, and the source is basically 0000, which is essentially defined as anywhere. And over here we have the 443 port, which is the HTTP port. It's HTTP or SSL port, which is essentially allow for secure traffic, and that is anywhere as well. 80 port is basically essentially just normal internet traffic, which is from anywhere as well. And then, so we will just connect. So right click on the instance and do connect. So over here, we can try EC2 instance connect. So that would essentially open a new tab, and we will do essentially a SSH connection on the browser. The other thing we can do is we can connect via SSH client. So SSH client is using what we just downloaded onto our computer. So we've just downloaded the test1.pem. Not sure if everyone remember. And we can basically connect to the instance by that SSH key. So I will just use that as well. So over here we can see that it's so number one, make sure that you on the folder that you are on is the same folder as your PM key, right? So which is in my case is called test1.pem, and then copy this command. So this is essentially allowing you to connect to AWS server on your own terminal, or if you use Windows, it'll be on your Git Bash or something like that. And this will just ask you some questions about whether you trust the device. So I'm going to go yes, and then so yeah. I think I need to limit the access rights. So now we are connected. So we are now connected to the instance. So we are connected through here. We can also connect through here. All connections just through the tab through the web browser is easier. You just need to click this tab here, easy to instance connect, and press connect, and that will open up a new connection in the tab. Yeah, they're essentially the same thing. Okay, so there's no difference. So it's essentially the same connection, no difference at all. And then, okay, so we are connected. So the left connection, so the connection that I made on the left with the browser, and this one is essentially the same thing. So I will just be using the browser for the time being, because for a lot of people it is easier. So once we're connected, we can sort of check out our system, our Linux server, and we're just gonna go to the root dictionary. So the root dictionary, you go by typing cd and slash. So cd is essentially the command that you'll be using a lot. So you'll be using the cd command to navigate around your server. And the slash here just means the root dictionary, which is the root directory. And ls is essentially to list out all the items that is in the current dictionary. So let's ls here. Now this is essentially all the dictionaries or all the folder files that are in our root directory. So we can see quite a number of files here, quite a number of folders here. So var as we will host our website. So var is kind of our base folder. So now what we will do next is we will so we set up the AWS server, we created the AWS account. So next we will set up NGX for our website. So NGX is the web service that's gonna host the website. So remember that we tried to connect our IP address, but it didn't work. So that's here. So enable for this IP address to actually work, we will need to set up a web service. So let's go set up Ubuntu NGX on Ubuntu. And we can essentially just follow the command here. So it's nice to do a sudo apt update. So sudo means super user. So sudo is super user. So I should write all these down. Let's do a sudo apt update. A sudo apt update is essentially just updating libraries so that we have the latest libraries to use. And after that, so apt is essentially the library in the Ubuntu. So you can think of it as your npm. And the next step is performing this. So install nginx. And it's asking if we want to continue to go yes. So yeah, so after this installed, we can see still don't think it's installed. Yeah, so in the case that it sort of doesn't update, you can sort of do a clear. It will clear your screen. So I don't think the install was successful. Let me just try run that again. Yeah, so it is installed actually. It was actually installed. And then we can go down, we can see the firewall. So it says here the firewall needs to be configured. So we just need to allow this, the HTTP traffic. And the next step, we can sort of check the status. It should be active. So let's check out the firewall rules. So now those traffics as well.
Can we try to build another port?
Build another port.
Right.
You mean open another port?
Yeah. Try to modify the default Nginx configure to another port. I think maybe the 18 port is built by other process.
80 port is held by another process. So what do you mean by another port? So to
maybe we can try to find.
Oh wait, yeah, that's actually working. Sorry about that. Yeah. So yeah, I think I was accessing the 443 port all along.
It works.
Yeah, it works actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I might just be accessing another port.
Yeah.
That's awkward. Yeah, so that's the page. And now we can basically see this here. It's in the so normally we would host our files in the VAR folder. Within the VAR folder, there's a folder called the www, and in that we have a folder called HTML, and essentially it is looking for this file right now, index.html, so we can nano into it and see the structure of the file. And essentially this is what it is hosting at the moment, and we can change this. So let's delete them. If that's been deleted, this will just show the content of the folder. Let's make another file. So let's make this index.html, and over here we can write some code about HTML. Sorry, the level actually needs to be pseudo HTML index because we're creating the file. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So now the file has been created. And the server is updating as we make changes. Yeah, there we go. So now we enable the server and access the server through HTTP. Yeah. So we were trying to access it by HTTPS, which is actually not configured, which is the cause of the issue. But if we try to access through HTTP, it will work. Yeah, cool. I think it's a good place we can end there. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So if I'm working, if I'm working as let's say a front end developer, would I see myself having to touch such platforms like the AWS platform? Would I see myself having to work on that a lot of time.
Yes, you will need to work on AWS or something like that. Yeah.
Oh,
Not well, if you're front-end developer, not all the time, but you would need to work on it occasionally.
every now and then. Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, another quick one. Are these platforms too different from each other? Say, for example, if you started off with AWS and then you happen to be hired with a company that uses Azure, Microsoft Azure, would you struggle a lot to?
They are very similar. So AWS and Azure are very similar platforms. They offer different services. They have different pricing structures. Yeah, but in terms of usage, it's very similar. So they both, when you use AWS or Azure, it's all sort of obviously on the virtual machine side of things. It's all sort of Linux. The difference comes when to some of the other services, the cloud services they offer. So AWS have different things like AWS Incognito, some unique services AWS or Azure would offer.
Okay, cool. I see.
Yes. Hello. Hi, Mike.
Hey.
Hi. Yes. Well, long time no see. By the way, I want to know that what is the priority if you want to become like a junior or entry level developer, for the priority to learn to handle the AWS or any cloud platform scale?
Priority to handle any AWS or cloud platform.
Yeah.
What do you mean by priority?
Like you if you want to become a developer, you have a list, you have a bunch of the skills you have to handle, from coding, from Git, all those sort of things. What do you think? Where you're gonna list the AWS or Azure or Google Cloud?
I will say, AWS and Google Cloud. AWS will be more commonly used than Google Cloud. AWS will probably be the most commonly used. Yeah, so AWS would definitely be the most commonly used server side sort of tick that you will want to learn. Git is obviously, but Git is obviously more important. Every developer needs to learn Git in depth.
Okay, so should I say you have to handle the some other skills? Well, not like like from coding, like how to write good code, how to write the readable code. After that, you pick up the how to programming on the server. On those cloud platform.
I will say this. I will say learn to write code, and then learn to write reasonably good code. Learn to, what I mean essentially, learn to write code and then be able to resolve problems and come up with solutions with coding. And then after that, go learn AWS, go learn server-side technologies. And then after you sort of at the sort of beginner or elementary level in server-side technologies, and then you can come back and you sort of progress into intermediate level sort of coding.
Okay, I see. Yes.
Cool. Does anyone else have any other questions? All right, if that's all, then we can finish off today. All right, see you guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.